Okay, right now we are working on Chapter 3, Practice 5, Part A. Solve these problems using the formula for simple interest. You may use your calculator. Okay, before we solve these problems, let's go over the formula first. When they ask you for simple interest or just the interest, this is the formula that you need to use. So interest equals the principal times the rate times time. And we know that time must be in years, not in months, not in minutes, not in seconds. Time must be in year, okay? So that's one thing we have to note. Now, how does that work? Let's say if they give you 16 months, okay? Let's say they give you 16 months. Now, how many years is that? So we know that 12 months is 1 year. So 16 months is divided by 12, and we will have 1 year and 4 months. So that means if we reduce, we will have 1 and 1/3 year. Okay, 1 and 1/3 year. That's because if we reduce the 4/12, you see the 4/12, 4 can go into 4 one time, 4 can go into 12 3 times. So that's why we have 1 and 1/3 year. Now, we can use 16 over 12. If we use a calculator, it would be, you don't need to change from here to here. You don't need to do that. You can just press 16 and then divide by 12. Then it should give you 1.3333 and so on years. So sometimes that happens. If that happens, you need to keep everything, okay? But you will round the money to the nearest penny at the end. Okay, that is if the month is more than 12 months. What happens if the month is less than 12 months? Let's say if I have the time here, let's say if it's for 8 months. So 8 out of 12. Okay, 8 out of 12, if you use a calculator, 8 out of 12, it's like what goes into 8 and 12. We can say 4 can go into both. So we have 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. So if you use a calculator, it will come to 0.6666666. Again, do not round this number just yet until you finish your calculation, then round your money or your answer to the nearest penny. That's more accurate. Now, another issue is if there is a problem that asks for the total amount instead of the interest. When they ask for the total amount, you should use this formula, like total. Okay, total equals the principal. Okay, the amount that you borrow or amount that you invest, add to the interest. So that should give you the total amount. There will be times when we will be using this formula right here. And there will be times when we use this formula right here. And keep in mind that if it's more than 12 months, then we will have the number of month divide by 12. If it's less than a year, then we will have to use this number of month divide by 12. So they both will be using the number of month divided by 12. So either way, you will get the same or the right answer. Okay, now let's get started to number 1. Leah borrows $1,500 for 2 years at a 12% interest rate. Find the interest on the loan. So we are going to use this formula. So interest is going to be equal the 1,500 times the 12% times the 2 years. So on the right, we are going to type in 1,500. So clear your screen first, and then type in 1,500. Multiply that by 12%. 12. To get the percent, remember we need to press the second key and press the left parenthesis. Now you see 12% here. Then multiply that by 2 years. So just punch in 2 and enter. So that will give you 360. What that means is the interest for $1,500 for 2 years at 12% interest is going to be $360. Let's type in $360 here. So first the money sign, then the 360 dot 00. Because it's money, you may put dot 00 there. Now let's move to number 2. How much interest would you pay on a loan of $800 for 6 months at 14% interest? Again, we are going to use the same formula here. I equals PRT. So punch in 800, that's the principal, multiply by 14%. Push 14, then to get the percent, hit second key and left parenthesis. Now you see the percent sign. Okay, for 6 months, do not put the 6, because if you put the 6, that is considered 6 years, not 6 months. So to get 6 months, we have to click the N over D. So we have a 6 on the top, and going down, then we have a 12. Then go right to exit out. Now you see the blinking is on the far right. Then press enter. That's $56. So let's write $56 on the answer here. 56.00. Now for number 3, Dominica invested $2,000 for 3 years at an interest rate of 7%. How much interest did she earn on her money? Okay, that's asking the same question. So we are going to multiply P times R times T. Okay, so P is 2,000, so punch in 2,000. Multiply that by 7%, that means 7. Then second, left parenthesis, multiply that by 3 years. Because it's years, 3 is in years, we need to just press 3 and press enter. That's going to give you 420. So write 420. Okay. Dot 00. Okay. Number 4. How much interest would you earn on an investment of $600 for 8 years at 10% interest? Okay, another interest problem. So, same thing. I equals PRT. So, P is 600. Let's clear this screen here. Okay, 600 multiplied by 10%, which is 10, and then second, and then left parenthesis, multiply that by 8. Now press enter. You have 480. Okay, write 480 right there. Okay, dollar sign 480. Okay, let me show you how to do this one again in a different way. You see the 600. I punch in 600 here. Okay, multiply by 10%. You know, 10%, when you change to decimal, you get 0.10. Then, if you do that, you don't need to put the percent symbol. So just multiply by 8. You should still get the same answer. Okay, do you see the two difference here? One, the top has a 10%. The bottom one has a 0.10. So they both have the same answer. Number 5, let's clear the screen first. Todd invests $6,500 for 3.5 years at 5% interest. How much interest will he be paid at the end of the time period? Okay, again, it's asking you for interest. So we are going to do the same. Punch in 6500, multiply that by 5%. So if you want to, you can, 5% is like 0.05. Multiply that by 3.5 years. If you don't want to do a fraction, then you can say 3.5 is like 3.5. So put 3.5, press enter. Now that's the amount. So let's keep that amount. So dollar sign 1,000. Okay, $1,137.50. Okay, number 6. Ricardo borrows $1,850 for 8 months at 12% interest. Okay, now you see the question asks you, what is the total amount he will pay back at the end of the loan period? Okay, for this one, pay attention to this formula right here. You see, total. Okay, he's not just asking for the interest, he's asking for the total amount that you pay back. That means after you find the interest, you have to add it back to the amount that you borrow. That should equal the total amount. Okay, let's do that on the screen. With the calculator here, let's clear. Now, Ricardo borrows $1,850. So, 1,850. Multiply that by 12% interest. That means 0.12. Multiply that by 8 months. Okay, so don't put 8 because it's not 8 years. Clicking N over D, and you see the top number is blinking, so punch in N, going down, and punch in 12. Then move your arrow to the right. Now you complete, and then enter. Now that's $148. That is only the interest. Okay, now to get the total, you need to add that to 1,850 enter. Now the answer is now 1998. So total equals the principal, which is 1850, add to the interest of 148, and that gives me $1,998. So no penny. Okay. 7. Clear screen. Yanira puts $5,000 in an investment account for 4 years. If she is paid 8.5% simple interest, how much interest will she earn? Okay, before we work this out on a calculator, I want to show you the 8.5% here. Okay, so 8.5%, that is the same thing as 8.5%. Okay, but to get to a decimal number, we need to move this point 1, 2. So when you do that, you will have 0.085. That's the decimal number that we will use when we punch in 8.5%. That is the same as 0.085 in decimal form. Okay, now Yanira puts $5,000. So let's punch in 5,000. Multiply that by 0.085. Multiply that by 4. Press enter. That is $1,700. Part B, number 8. Jean borrowed $1,300 to buy tools for her job as an auto mechanic. The loan is for 1 year, 6 months at 9% interest. Which of the following expressions could be used to find the amount she will pay back at the end of the loan period? Okay, now we need to look at the 1 year and 6 months. Okay, what is that? That is like 1.5 years. Okay, that's 1.5 years. That's the number we will use. And the 9% simple interest, that amount we are going to use 0.09. In this case, they will use the 0. So the 0 is there. Okay. Which of the following expressions could be used to find the amount she will pay back at the end of the loan period? So she will need to pay the interest, which is this calculation here, plus the loan amount. So the answer should be D. Number 9. Noah borrows $8,000 for 5 years to make improvements to his home office. If the simple interest rate is 6%, how much will he pay in interest? Okay, for this one, we will need to use this formula. I equals PRT. So P in this case is $8,000. That multiplied by 0.06, multiply that by 5 years, and see how much it comes to. So go to the calculator, punch in 8,000, multiply that by 0.06, multiply that by 5 years. Enter. That's $2,400. So you are not going to add back to the $8,000 because it doesn't ask you for the total payment. It only asks you for the interest. And we need to choose the answer. So the one we choose is A, 2,400. Number 10, Caleb borrowed $1,500 from his aunt. He plans to pay his aunt back in 9 months. If he pays back 4% interest on the loan, what is the total amount he will pay back in 9 months? Okay, this is the formula you will be using. So you will be using total. That will equal the principal, the amount that he borrowed, okay, plus the interest. So the interest is going to be the principal times the rate times the time. So we will put the information here. So P is 1,500 plus parenthesis. You have to put it in parenthesis because this is of its own formula right here. So P is another 1,500 because that's the amount that he borrowed times the rate. The rate is 0.04, okay, and times 9 months. That is like 9 out of 12. So what is 9 out of 12 in decimal? Or can we reduce that first to figure out? So what goes into 9 and 12? Isn't it 3? So that's 3 into 9 is 3. 3 into 12 is 4. So that's like 0.75. Okay? So we can use that number, 1,500 times 0.04 times 0.75. Let's use the calculator to figure that answer here. Clear? Now I need to do the one in the parenthesis here first. So I say 1,500, multiply that by 0.04, multiply that by 0.75. Now I have to enter. That's $45. Okay? Then add $1,500 to it. Okay, that's going to be $1,545. That's B. Number 11 and number 12, the question says to use the following information on the data here. So let's look at number 11 first. Charlotte needs to borrow $2,400. She is considering the 3 loan options shown above. How much more interest would Charlotte pay if she takes loan option C instead of option A? So we are going to do 2 things here. First, we need to do the interest rate for A and the interest rate for C. Okay? And then we will subtract loan option C minus loan option A. So option C, we still need to do the principal is $2,400. Okay. Multiply that by, you see, C, that's 9%, which is 0.09, and multiply that by 4. Okay, so let me erase this. Okay, this is loan C. Now, this minus loan A. So loan A is 2,400 still. Multiply that by 12%, which is 0.12. Then that multiplied by 2.5 years, which is 2.5. Okay. This is loan A. Okay. Now let's use our calculator to do these, and then we can subtract. So let's look at loan C first. 2,400, multiply that by 0.09, multiply that by 4. So that's $864 for loan C. 864. Then subtract. Now let's do loan A. Loan A, we have 2,400, multiply that by 0.12, multiply that by 2.5, and then press enter. That's 720. Okay. Now we need to subtract, right? So 864, press 864 minus 720. That's 144 difference. Okay, so go to the option and you will choose B for that. Number 12. Charlotte chooses option B, but she decides to borrow $2,800 instead of $2,400. What is the total amount she will pay back when the loan is due? And then highlight the one that she's going to work on. So she's going to work with B right here. And let's write the formula down here. So they ask you for the total amount she will pay back. That means that the total amount is going to be total equals the principal, which is the P, the amount of the loan, plus the interest, which is going to be the principal times the rate times the time. Okay. So the principal is going to be $2,800. So $2,800 okay, plus parentheses 2,800 multiplied by the rate, which is 10%. In this case, 10% is 0.10 times 3 years. Okay, now let's go to the calculator and let's do these numbers here. Okay, we need to do what's in the parentheses. So punch in 2,800, multiply that by 0.10, multiply that by 3, enter. So that's 840. That is the number in the parentheses. So I can put 840 in here. Okay, now we need to add these two numbers together. Okay, that means we are going to add 2,800 to it and then enter. So the total is $3,640. So $3,640. Our choice is going to be D, $3,640.